Thanks for joining me again. This is Tim Laskus, and this is the Tim Laskus Show. This is episode 98 with Yigal, Adato. Yigal gives a powerful message about entrepreneurs who are destroying their lives with various addictions, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or even sex. He discusses openly about his own addiction with sex in the past, and how he was living at the time, and what struggles he had and demons that he had to overcome. But more importantly, he focuses on how he's able to work with current business leaders and help them to unlock the door to whatever those issues that they're having, specifically the lack of honesty that leaders are having with themselves, and so that they can see what is going on with them and how their families may be struggling or suffering because of the amount of work and things that they're doing. This is a really powerful, wonderful interview. I know you're going to enjoy this. So here you go.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests, entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Hey, you go. Thank you for joining me today.
No, thank you so much for having me, Tim. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, you were telling me you're down in sunny San Diego, California. What are you doing down there when you're not working?
I'm just enjoying the sun. I play with my daughter, go to the park, hang out with my wife, exercise. It's easy to do when we are in sunny San Diego.
Absolutely. Do you surf?
I don't. I do not.
See, I
should be ashamed
everybody
of that.
thinks if you don't live in California, they think, oh, everybody in California surfs. And it's just not true.
No, yeah. So I don't live too close to the beach. I'm more inland, but I've tried it a couple of times, and I drank so much seawater that I decided that it just wasn't my thing.
That was it, huh? You're
Yeah.
done. After some seaweed and some seawater, you're done with that.
Yep, I was finished.
Not a problem. Hey, well, you gotta tell the listeners a little bit about yourself professionally, and what are you currently working on?
Sure. So I am a leadership expert and a professional speaker, and I currently help business owners produce more power, more profit, and more peace in their business and their lives by mastering self-leadership skills.
Gotcha. Now, what are some of the kind of the main issues that you see crop up with people who are suffering, who just are kind of lacking in the leadership department?
So the first thing I see, Tim, is a lack of honesty. And a lot of times when I work with clients and I coach business owners, and we sit down and we're doing work, and what I realize is that they're afraid to tell the truth. They're afraid to tell the truth of where they are professionally, where their business is, where they are mentally, where their marriage is, all those things. And in order to change, in order to improve, in order to have more success in life, you need to be honest. Because then we can see exactly where you are today and where we're going to get to, and we can kind of build a roadmap of how to get there and work on it together. But I see this lack of honesty, this fear of raising the hand and saying, I need help. So much that it's actually sad, because it drives people, to abuse drugs, to get addicted, to drink. And it's a horrible pattern, man.
So So you're saying it's not a lack of honesty with others, but a lack of honesty with themselves, and kind of lack of insight as well into what's really going on in their life or what their issues are. And many times, I guess you're saying that people are just kind of masking those problems. And it sounds like you're somebody who comes in and really pulls back the layers for them to see the real issue and the kind of the source of the pain.
Yeah, and that's why, my website is unlocktheleader.com, because what I do is I come in and I unlock the lies. I unlock, the potential for them. We unlock layers of things that have been happening, because as you said, if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with others. And the worst part about that, Tim, is that people start realizing that you're dishonest, and they start shaking in their boots. Lack of consistency breeds insecurity. And so they start seeing a lack of consistency from the leader, from the business leader, from the family man, from whatever it is, right? And they start getting scared, and they start acting scared around you. And so there's this thing that's happening in our world where what success is more money, bigger teams, more stores. And so you get pats on the back for that, right? A lot of these business groups, they hold up high the person who makes the most money. But yet we don't see how's the family life. I had a client who was doing, 8 figures in business, the hundreds of employees. I mean, this business was booming. Brought me in because they wanted to increase the leadership of their management team. And so as we were working together, and I was starting to realize that things just aren't right, something's going wrong, like I'm having a harder time than usual. And so I sit down with the owner of the company and ask him 3 questions. I said, hey man, how are you as a leader? And he said, no, I'm okay. I said, okay. I said, do your employees trust you? I said, I think so. And then my last question, Tim, was, how's your marriage? And then he just looked at me and he's like, it sucks. I barely talk with my wife. We're always fighting. She has issues. I barely have sex. And I was like, that's the problem.
So you were able to really kind of pinpoint that source of pain. And how receptive are your clients many times to when you start to really touch on some of those kind of tender issues? Do they tend to kind of want to run away from them, from that kind of area and just I just don't want to talk about it? Or do you find many people are open and kind of let their guard down and allow you to help them process?
Some people are afraid and they run for the hills, Tim, because they've never had the wounds opened up. They've never been honest. And so when you live a life of dishonesty and lying for a long time, and somebody comes in and starts peeling back and unlocking all these lies, you freak out and you don't want any part of it, especially when you have somebody who's successful, right? Because they think to themselves, everything that I've been doing up to now is causing my success, so I need to continue it. And then some of them love it. I mean, I had a client who sent me a message last week. He said, hey man, I love you. I got my 30-day chip from AA for being sober, and I couldn't have done it without you. And I said, no, it wasn't me, it was you. Because you finally looked into yourself to tell the truth. You finally determined that you wanted to do the work, and we got it done. And because of it, he made an extra $20K that month. Not $200, Tim, not $2,000. He made an extra $20,000 just from telling the truth and getting the work done. And that's what I love doing.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. So do you work directly with them with let's say there's an addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, or whatever it might be, or do you kind of refer them out to someone else and then you continue to work with them on other issues? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'm not a professional addiction specialist. I was addicted myself at some point. I was addicted to sex. Back when I was 19, 20, I was dating my high school sweetheart, broke my heart after like 9 years, and there was just like no emotional connection from my brain to my heart. So I went out there and just wanted to have sex. Just that's it. I subdued everything with sex. And so I know a little bit about it, but I'm not an expert. So what I say is, you have to be working with an addiction specialist while working with me. And if you don't, then I don't want to work with you. Because there's no point of me working with somebody if they're not getting help for their addiction, right? And all this is really close to my heart, man, because I have a family member who has severe addiction to pain medication. My father, who was a very successful businessman. I mean, hundreds of employees, also did 8 figures in business consistently. And about 5 years ago, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's and dementia. And so I thought to myself, wait a second, man, and now he can't enjoy his money. He can barely walk. He can barely talk. He's got 6 caregivers. And I hope I'm not bringing down the mood of this interview, but I want to be truthful to the listeners. And I want them to know that when you are an entrepreneur, when you're working towards success, if you're not working towards your personal success at the same time, all you're going to create is chaos in the end. So if you're just going for money, If you're just going, oh, I'm for my purpose, right? A lot of people say, I'm doing this for my purpose. If part of your purpose isn't you and your family, you will suffer towards the end somewhere. Something's going to break. Family's going to break, your health is going to break. And so my kind of mission, my goal is to get entrepreneurs to know that, yes, let's work on your purpose, but you have to get help in the meantime.
Yeah, I think in this day and age when the Gary Vaynerchuk, there is one Gary Vaynerchuk, but there's many other Gary Vaynerchuk likes who are out there talking about crushing it and just work hard, work hard, work hard, and which is great. And yes, you need that to be successful. But it's well, what happens? What are you sacrificing when you're working 20-hour days? Something's going to give, something's going to crack, and the problems are going to surface. And so nobody's really talking about that. So I think this is an important area. Also when you were talking about addiction and someone came to mind, Tiger Woods. What did you think when all of that came out? I guess this was a couple of years ago. When he came out with his sexual addiction.
I was proud of him to finally say it. After the cheating on his wife and all these things that were happening, the only way to get help is to admit that you have a problem. And I don't want people to think listening that you have to admit that you're an addict of some sort to say that you have a problem, right? I think that a lot of entrepreneurs can raise their hand and say, man, I have an accounting problem. I have a marketing problem. I have a team building problem. I have a culture problem. Whatever that is, whatever problem that you have is, if you don't admit it, it's not going to get fixed. Because once you admit it and you get on that road to figuring it out, man, there's freedom. There's tons of freedom because things will get fixed if you get help, right? If you have a marketing problem and you do nothing about it, nothing's going to happen. But if you hire a marketer, if you learn marketing and you figure it out, it's a different story. But going back to Tiger Woods, I was proud of the fact that he admitted that he had a sex addiction problem because now he can get help. Now the press can leave him alone because now there's nothing to hide.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's really come up anymore. No one's really talking about it. So, but in the beginning there was all that speculation. I think it was around I don't know what the holidays, Christmas or Thanksgiving or something, whenever it happened, a couple of years ago, and everyone was speculating, everyone was talking. But then once it came out, it seemed to kind of die down. But Yigal, when did you kind of initially get into this area of work, and what kind of propelled you to go forward and start this?
So I had my own business for 16 years. I had retail locations. I had 3 locations. I was a pawn shop owner. That's PAWN. And I had tons of employees that I would lead, and I was extremely busy, and I was kind of following the footsteps of my father because he's my business mentor. And I'm so happy he was because I learned what to do, and I also learned what not to do. And so I did what every extremely busy businessman should do. I found a beautiful wife and I got married. And 1 year into my marriage, I came home. It was a Thursday night, took off my shoes, put my briefcase down, or my backpack, and because I don't know who uses briefcases these days. and I walked into the house and I was sitting down for dinner with my wife, and I just looked into her eyes and I knew that something was wrong. And so I asked. I said, babe, what's wrong? She said, enjoy your dinner. We'll talk about this later. And I was like, there's no way I can enjoy my dinner knowing that something is wrong, right? So I kept asking, and she said, fine, I'll tell you. Mind you, this is a year into our marriage, Tim. 1 year. She said, Yigal, I didn't get married to be alone. That took me back. I got angry. I'm like, what do you mean? I said, give me a minute. I got to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and I was like, what is she talking about? We live a good life. We go on vacations, nice cars, nice house. How can she say this? And then as I looked deeper into myself, I said, Yigal, it's time to tell the truth. You are not around. You are not present. And so that was one of kind of like the catalysts that made me change. at the same time as when my father had the diagnosis and he was getting worse and worse. So I looked at my wife, I looked at my dad, and I had to make a choice. The choice was continue working the way I was or doing something different and leading my life, all aspects of life. Being a leader in my marriage, in my health, in my mind, in my business, so that I could in the future look back and say, man, that was awesome. I'm happy with no regrets.
Such a powerful story, Yigal, and I'm sure that one that many listeners can relate to. Often, these entrepreneurs that are out there who are married or in relationships, they find it difficult to maintain this balance. On one side, their significant others, their wives, their spouses, their girlfriends, whoever it may be, they want that kind of, that type of lifestyle. And so they're out there hustling to give them this lifestyle that they know they want. But then there's this others, well, you're not home enough. You're not around enough, and you're not with the kids enough. And they're going, well, I can't do it all. I can't give you the life that you want and be with you. What do I do? So what is kind of your advice for people out there who are in that kind of bind?
I think there's different types of working. And I think there's different types of hustling. Like I used to think the same thing about Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And I know he comes up in these types of conversations a lot. And now I respect the hell out of him because he is so self-aware. He knows exactly who he is. His wife knows exactly who she married. Obviously, my only issue is with the kids because the kids don't have an agreement as to how much their father is away, right? But that's a different story. So you need to be able to know and work, hard. You have to work, you got to hustle to make money. I mean, I worked a lot to be successful. I worked a lot of hours and you kind of have to, but you have to know when the people around you need you present. So if you're working 16, 17 hours a day and your marriage is crap, you need to shift something. If your wife is okay with it, if she loves you and you guys have this great relationship, great sex life, great intimacy, it can work for you. So for everybody else, it's different. But when it comes to your health, I think it's crucial to have balance in your health. And what I mean by that is you got to have time to exercise. You have to have time to mentally be okay, journal, meditate, pray, whatever it is that you do to be mentally stable, because all that's happening is that your vendors, your clients, your employees are going to suffer if you're not mentally okay. And we're seeing this ridiculous boom of mental instability within entrepreneurs. One of the keynote speeches I give, I think the American Psychology Association published, it was like 33 to 34% of entrepreneurs are depressed. And of those 33%, 60% are abusing some type of a substance, right? And I go back to substance abuse because right now it's very prominent in my life, dealing with a family member who has it. But at the same time, I see, friends and family and community members who are entrepreneurs, and I see them going out there and crushing it, but then just going out there and partying, getting wasted and hammered. And I see them having horrible relationships with their wives. I see them going to rub and tug massage parlors and going to strip clubs and having this whole, and it's mostly the men, right? That are going out there and doing this, and they're like this brotherhood of, yeah, let's go and let's go to the strip club and let's go get a rub and tug and let's go cheat on our wives and it's okay. But all of this is a product of not being honest, and all of this is a product of not being emotionally connected. And it took me a long time to learn this, Tim. So much time. It took me 6 years of therapy just to learn how to communicate, to open my mouth and say my true feelings.
Well, that was very powerful, Yigal. And I mean, and there's a number of just great nuggets of wisdom in there. And one, is communication, communication with yourself and communication with those in your support system. Be open, communicate, don't shut down, don't close doors, and just be aware of who's around you, be aware of yourself, communicate with others. And and also be aware of some of those telltale signs that are going on around you, that things aren't okay in your family. Is your wife more quiet? Is are you more distant right now than maybe you were in the past? What are some of those signs? And pick up on it before it gets to the point where you just get served with divorce papers, because at that point then it's too late. And so you need to be aware early on, catch it early and work on it. And then I also, I love when you talk about, be well-rounded, take care of yourself. And it reminds me of being in the airplane before they take off. They do the whole, the safety kind of procedures and where to go, the emergency exits. And if the cabin loses pressure, put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. And really that's kind of the key of what you're saying. You need to take care of yourself, because you can't help anyone else around you. And because otherwise you're just helping others, you're doing, and you just drop, you just pass out, and that's it. And you're not doing anyone any favors if you don't take care of yourself first.
I couldn't agree with you more. And for me, this message is more prominent for entrepreneurs who are married with families. Because when you make the choice to get married, when you choose to have children, you have a much higher responsibility now. You have a responsibility to be there, to be present, to be mentally stable so that they grow up mentally stable. And if you're not, you need to do something about that ASAP. Now, I know some people listening are going to say, like, what if I'm an employee and I have to work this many hours? I understand that, man. I don't want to knock people down who have to work 2 and 3 jobs to pay the rent.
Now,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But there's people who are making choices of not being present, right? The business owner, the high-level manager who can get his work done, but still uses work as a refuge from home. If you are staying at work more than you need to not go home and deal with what you need to deal with, you have a problem. Something is going on that you need to get help with. Because you're running away.
Yeah.
And it's as somber as that sounds, there's a lot of people who do it.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's going to resonate with many people out there listening, whether they want to recognize it or not. But it's true. They dive, head in first, and let me just, keep working, and just wait till things explode, so to speak. But Yigal, on a brighter note, what would you say has been one of the most fulfilling moments of your entrepreneurial journey?
For me, so in the last business, it was just giving great customer service, people having smiles, changing lives. In the last business I owned a pawn shop where we were lending money to people, $10, $15 to get to work, $100 to pay for a bill, whatever that was. So that was extremely fulfilling for me. And knowing that my employees had the opportunity to make money, buy a car, grow their families, that was incredible for me. In this new business, and I love I love what you just said, on a brighter note, I love unlocking the potential in leaders. I love knowing that when I'm working with somebody and it like the bulb turns on and they start telling the truth, they start having incredible relationships with their wives and their families, their business starts booming. I love that feeling. I love it because I know I have a 2-year-old daughter, Tim, and I promised her when she was born that I was going to build a legion of leaders. I was going to build a world with more leaders so she grew up in a better place than I did. And by improving the lives of business leaders who have an incredible impact, because when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a business leader, you have an incredible impact on the world. You have employees, you have customers, you have vendors, and if you're a better person, they become a better person. And that trickles down, right? It's kind of like the trickle-down economy. For me, it's trickle-down leadership. And when I can trickle down leadership, I know at some point my daughter is going to live in a better world. And so that fulfills me. That's what I love.
Well, Yigal, it is very clear what your purpose is, where your focus is. And I think it's wonderful. We need more people like you in this world, especially in the world of business. And just bringing it. You're doing wonderful things out there, and I really appreciate your time and all the tips and stories that you've shared during this interview. Unfortunately, we're at the end, but before we go, Yigal, tell the listeners where they can find you online and on social media.
Sure. So you can go to my website, unlocktheleader.com, and there'll be a gift for you there for listening to Tim's incredible show. And you can also find me on all social media at Yigal Adato. That's YIGAL ADATO. Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I'm all over the place.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, y'all, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And send some of that sunny San Diego weather this way to the East Coast.
I'll try, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskus.com.